Community is a customer engagement platform. We had thousands of celebrities. The president is on our platform.
It lives up to the hype.
I had to be very serious about finding people who had diverse backgrounds as investors.
It's really important that emerging managers, legacy fund managers are listening to this. When did you know it was working? When did you know you had something?
President Obama was one of our earliest people on the platform.
Hi, Dianca. How are you?
Hey, Arlan. I'm fine. How are you?
I love your name.
Thank you.
Dianca Lanier.
Yes. It's actually, the first name is Senegalese. So it's a Senegalese name. And my mom, made the, heard about the name. She was on her way to see a Senegalese play, went into labor, never saw the play, and decided to name me after the play.
Does it have a meaning that we know of?
Yes, I understand. So anybody who's Senegalese will have to forgive me if it's wrong. The understanding that I was given was that it explains the process of transforming from a girl to a woman.
Oh.
Which is, I don't think we have a word for that.
No.
Right?
I think Britney Spears has a song for it, but I don't know.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
That's beautiful. And where did you grow up?
I grew up in Seattle. I grew up in West Seattle, which at the time, as a lot of people think about Seattle, they think Microsoft, Amazon, Nordstrom. Nordstrom was around growing up, but all of those other big companies weren't around. And it was like where I grew up, it was pretty much small town. We had one little bridge that took us over to the mainland, but besides that, I grew up as a tomboy playing in the forest with little fake BB guns.
Wait, the forest?
Yeah, we had a bunch of undeveloped lands. Yeah. So that's where we played. We played all sorts of outdoor games.
Because I don't know if you know this, but the U.S. would have us believe that all black people grew up with drive-bys.
Yeah, exactly.
So the forest rarely comes up in the description.
Right. That's right. Well, the drive-by, we did have plastic BB guns with us. So that's about as close as we got.
But we were of the earth there.
Yeah, we were of the earth.
That's
amazing. It was like the Little Rascals.
Yeah.
A Seattle version with a black woman.
That's so cute. Did you have siblings?
I did. I have an older brother and a younger sister. They're all in Seattle still.
Were you close enough in age where you could play with each other, or is it?
My older brother was 3 years older, and I think no brother wants their little sister around.
Yeah,
so we theoretically could have played together.
Yeah.
We did not, but we were really close. And my little sister is 6 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So my little sister was, I felt like a second mom. I'm sure she didn't appreciate that, and she still doesn't. But
she probably avoided a lot of things because you were around.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I did always have her back, and I remind her of that all the time. So.
And we fast forward. You're in Seattle, but a lot of your work has been in being a lawyer.
That's right.
What type of lawyer?
I was fortunate. I came out, my first job was as an antitrust lawyer as a big firm. So the way I got to law school was pretty interesting. I left Seattle right after I turned 18. I was really excited. I got accepted into Howard University. That was my dream school, the only place I wanted to go. I got to Howard, and I come from a family that had, super humble beginnings.
Yeah.
My dad was drafted in the military. My mom worked and supported the family. And my dad had actually had some addiction issues coming out of Vietnam. So we didn't have money at all, right? Food bank level, not have money. So when I got into Howard, I was super excited, but I hadn't planned well at all and didn't realize that you actually have to do things like a FAFSA, all of that.
Yeah.
So I got to school, got settled into my dorm. The RA knocked on the door and said, you haven't paid yet? So
you had to pay?
Yeah, I was like, you guys don't work all that out with some loans or something? And they said no. So I walked down the street in D.C. First time, by the way, I was there with a chest. I didn't have a suitcase. I had a Hope chest that my mom had given me, and joined the Army right from Washington, D.C. So I was 18 years old. I didn't know people yelled at people in the military. I literally...
Had you not watched
Private Benjamin? It was Private Benjamin. Now, Gomer, I don't even remember. I did see Private Benjamin, but I didn't think that was real.
Yeah, or Major Payne.
Yeah, I might have... Major Payne might have been later. Yeah. But yeah, so
you... I was not expecting you to say that.
Yeah.
So you took this chest that your mother gave you, dragged it down the street, and enrolled in the Army so they could pay for your college.
Yes, well, I left the chest when I went to the Army recruiter's office
in
the dorm room.
When we do the movie version, you're going to have the chest with you.
The movie version will have me, right, exactly.
And how was that once you realized they're going to yell at you, you're going to be doing physical things?
Well, what some people don't know, when you first sign up for the military, they keep you in like a little holding area. It's like summer camp. So I met the most brilliant woman ever, who was 18 as well, from Mississippi. I mean, like dirt floor, like dirt roads, like small town Mississippi. We got together in this holding area, and we were buying like little cans of Minute Maid juice, and we just thought, oh, this is easy, right? They didn't yell. We were like, they asked us, are you going home for the holidays? We were like, no, we'll stay here. This is wonderful. And so then they moved us, probably about a week later, to the actual part where they start yelling at you. And they started yelling, and we both started laughing. Now, we're from two different parts of the world, right? Seattle and deep Mississippi. We're laughing because the other women are scared.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, actually, somebody started crying. And so we were like, oh, they're just messing with us. And so once we couldn't hold our laughs in, at one point, she blurted out. Well, I know I blurted out the laugh.
Yeah.
And she was sitting there with a country smile, looking like she's the one who laughed, and the drill sergeant threw a chair at us.
Oh.
Like real
I'm
chair.
going to figure out, I'm from Mississippi, so I'm going to figure out what a country smile is at one point.
It was that happy country
smile.
Threw a chair at us. We dodged the chair. I couldn't believe it. Like, that was the moment where it got real serious.
Oh, my
We were like,
gosh.
oh, these people aren't right.
Now, I'm going to fast forward. How long were you in the Army? Because something must have stuck with you.
That is a surprise. So I ended up being in for 16 years. Yes. Wow. Ended up being in for 16 years. So, going full circle back to how I got to law school is I kept back. I finished all the training, hated the military. Went to my first Army unit. I ran into a wonderful black woman who said, this isn't going to work for you.
And what point of this would that have been? Like how long?
It was right after my training. So it was about, I'd only been in the military for about, honestly, maybe 6 months.
Okay. So
and
6 months into
6 months
16.
of training. Yep. 6 months in. She was like, I was a private, nothing. She's like, this is never going to work for you, right? Never going to work. Because I didn't like it. It was just like too oppressive for me. And so I was like, she said, you should join ROTC.
Okay.
In college. So she gave me some great advice. I joined ROTC.
What's the difference between what you were going to be doing in ROTC?
I was laminating ID cards.
That's the difference. That's all we need to know.
Right? That's all you need to know. That was my primary job.
Yeah. Okay.
And then when I became an officer, right, you're trained to lead troops, platoons. So that's what I did. So I came back to Seattle, because at that point, Howard was like, listen, you need to get your situation together before you come back. Yeah. So I left the school, went back to the University of Washington, enrolled in ROTC, and the rest was history. I loved it. Now, I loved leading, which is probably a great segue. I loved leading. Ended up coming back to the East Coast because I felt like I didn't get my fair East Coast start. Lived in D.C. while I studied for the law exam. Ended up doing really well and being admitted into the University of Pennsylvania for law school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And along the way, did you feel like you had a curiosity that took you on these trips, or what guided you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I was like the nerdy fifth grader who knew I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I loved Thurgood Marshall. I wanted to be sort of Shirley Chisholm. She wasn't a lawyer, but she was a politician. I wanted to be, Shirley might have been a lawyer. You have to correct me if I'm wrong.
Probably.
Yeah. But I knew I wanted to advocate for people. right? I wanted to sort of live a life that was felt like I was doing something for more than just myself. So at that time, lawyering was the only way, by the way, I thought you could do that effectively. So I knew I wanted to go to law school, and that's what I did. So I went to law school, never thought, by the way, I'd be doing anything different than litigating cases. Never.
And how do you go from the military to law school to now running a huge company?
Yeah. Well, it all kind of fits in together because the military as an officer is where I got most of my operational experience and my start. Right? So every officer, no matter what your job is, my first job happens to be a logistics officer. So I was a logistics officer. We always had additional duties, right? I was doing everything from running sort of the drug, right, control, sort of like operations, training exercises. So you learn how to just run and operate everything. So I got my training there. Then I was airborne, so I got to jump out of airplanes. So I was one of 2 people selected out of my law school, out of my undergrad class to go to airborne school. So that also taught me to be an example, right, to other people. And then by the time I got through doing that, I, started as a JAG officer in the military. And at the same time, the beautiful thing about the military, most people don't know, is that, one, you learn that everybody, like there are good and bad people of all colors, creeds, types. There's people, right? Like people are people in the very end. There are some people have, right? There are lots of systemic issues.
Sure.
Right.
I hear where you're going though.
Yeah. But people at their core have a choice to do the right thing or not. And that's what I loved about the military. So it also taught me that no matter what I was doing, I was always a leader. You're always a leader, no matter what. And I think that's how I ended up moving from sort of the law, the field, the area of law. I would always, when I went to my first startup as the general counsel, the head lawyer of a startup company, I would always tell people, I came here to be a leader, not a lawyer.
So that's kind of the entrance there was you were someone's legal counsel.
Yep.
Internal, in-house.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah,
that's right.
And so I do want to talk about community, which I have to tell you just a side note. So I wrote this book, It's About Damn Time, and the word community is in the book multiple times, maybe 17 or more.
Love it.
When I was recording the audio for it, we learned that I have a hard time saying that word for some reason.
Really?
I have a hard time saying the word community unless I really think about it. So it's funny to me that we're talking about it because I may say it weird, but that's what it is. But that's where you are now.
Yes.
And for people who are not familiar, I'm a customer. For people who are not familiar, what does community do?
Community is a customer engagement platform. So we allow all of our customers to personalize their communications with their audience. So in many ways, we're a marketing strategy, a marketing tool. So some of our biggest customers, like, for example, we have 5 NBA teams. We have McDonald's on the platform. What they use our platform to do is to gather first and zero-party data about their audience. So first party data is like your name, right? Your gender, your email address, all of that data. And then they also can gather zero party data, that's gathered by insights you want to know. So let's say you want to know how many of your audience members or your community has read your book, right? You would send a message, hey, I dropped a new book. By the way, definitely drop that on your community.
Yeah, I'm going to do it today.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I use it every week.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I dropped a new book. How many of you, right, have had a chance to read it? And then you'll probably include a link. Well, now you get tailored information on who's read it. The people who say yes, you can speak to them differently than the people who say no. So you can imagine you can do that in, like, there are so many different scenarios where that matters. And we always say it's the first platform that allows you to listen to your audience. When you're talking to people through the internet, through social media, I mean, social media is fine, right? But you're yelling into the internet. It's a billboard. Think about it as a community as two-way communication and listening platform. We say real conversation starts when you listen.
And the medium is text messaging.
Text messaging. So it goes right to your sort of inbox. There are no algorithms. You don't have to log into an app. You don't have to turn on your notifications and worry about them being on. Everyone in your community, by the way, when you send that message later, is going to get your message within like seconds.
Yeah. I use it a lot, and it lives up to the hype. You know, and I really love it because you can say, and we should say you're not paying us to promote it. But you can say, I'm going to be, like, I travel.
Yes.
Like a lot of people. And I can say, oh, I'm going to New York. So I can tell people within 45 miles, I'm going to be in New York, going to hang out at this place at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Come by if you can. And then you're not bothering the people who aren't going to see that. You really can't do that as well with a email blast.
No.
Or a social blast.
No.
And so you can really keep in touch. It also helps you, it tells you every day whose birthday it is.
Yes.
So you can send a message to everybody, it's their birthday.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I think Ashton does the birthdays best.
Oh, does he?
Right?
Ashton Kutcher was one of the first users, and he's a power user.
Yes, exactly. He actually sits on our board too.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So he is. So that's a great way to send messages. Michelle Obama, when she was getting ready, the way she did it is she launched a message. It's really fun. She said, "Hey, I have something to share. Do you want to guess what it is?"
Oh.
Yeah. And so of course, everyone's like, "You're running for president."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She was like, "No, actually, if that's what you responded with, that is not the answer."
Yeah.
And of course, she was dropping her latest book and dropped the link for everyone to buy that in advance. So wonderful thing about community is that any information you want people to be the first to know and have a edge on, and like you said, you can segment your audience.
Yeah. And I can't help but notice that you're black and a woman. And you're the CEO. You're the CEO of this company. You have Michelle Obama, Ashton Kutcher, McDonald's, 5 major teams. You have to be making a lot of money for the company. Can you talk? What can you say publicly?
Yeah, so we've had a pretty steep trajectory. About a couple of years ago, we had just hit $1 million monthly recurring revenue.
Monthly recurring.
Yeah, monthly.
People talk about million yearly.
Yes,
You're saying monthly.
I was saying monthly, so you know what that means. It wasn't necessarily even for the full year.
That's right.
And a couple of years later, we surpassed the $16 million mark.
Yeah.
So we've had
yearly
a pretty steep growth. That's average. That's annually.
Annually,
Yeah.
$16 million annually.
Yes.
And when did you come in as the CEO?
I came
because I don't think you founded the company.
Yeah,
I used to
right.
work with the company a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll say my joke is I'm not the founder, but I'm the savior.
You gotta say it.
I always say that because I just want to quickly say too, every woman I know who is the CEO of a company, unless it's a family business, and sometimes not even that, no woman was ever handed a money tree. It's just true. Like, no woman is ever handed a business that is just dropping money. Like, I don't have to work. I don't have to, like, you're working. By the time a woman gets to be the CEO, Ursula Burns, it's time to work.
Yeah.
Right? And so nothing's different in my role. So I started in 2021, mid-2021 as the COO, which a job I loved. So I had a chance to dig in, dive, gather the team. We built a strategy, decided we wanted to move the company up market. So all of these enterprise logos were relatively new just in the last 12 months.
Because it was more influencer-based.
It was more influence than celebrities. Yeah. We had thousands of celebrities, which we still have, and we still love that audience base, but we've now moved up market to gain some major logos. Yeah. So that's how we started to build our trajectory. I was promoted to the CEO in June of 2022.
So you went from 1 million monthly recurring to 16 million annual, and this was like a steep curve, like moving. How did you handle that? Did you feel a pressure?
Yeah, I'll talk about that too. I did feel a lot of pressure, consistent with the idea that, obviously, like there were some challenges like that led up to me being in that seat. Yeah. And one of the challenges, as most people will remember in our world, right, the startup world, that the market started to shift and change. December 2021, November, we started to feel the change. Investors were asking different questions. And I don't know if we fully realized as CEO leaders what was happening, but I know even in December, we made some personnel cuts much earlier than everyone else did, really early, because we felt the economic environment was changing.
December of 2020.
December of 2021. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
so
right.
Instead of the time when people were hiring the most, you were cleaning house a little bit, making sure that you could withstand
what we felt like was happening. Fast forward, top of the year, January, February 2022, it was for sure. When you're fundraising, typically the question had been for the last decade, like, what's your growth trajectory? Yeah. Right? Like, that was the question. Like, if you came in, and if I had come in, particularly as a Black woman, talking about things like, being cash flow positive, I probably would have gotten laughed out of the room, to be honest with you, and told that, this is not what you should be talking about. Yeah. I started fundraising. I got deeply involved in the process early 2022, and the first questions we were being asked are, when are you going to be cash flow positive? What's your burn? Right?
And because so many startup founders are not used to being asked that.
Yes.
They were flat-footed. A lot of them.
They were flat-footed.
And surprised because it is this sort of environment of we're not going to ask too much of you.
Yes.
And we're not going to ask too many questions, and we're going to write the checks.
Yeah.
But it's in these waves.
Waves.
How important is it to always know your numbers?
It's always important, right? You have to know the numbers, 247, not only because you want to look good, but it helps you run the business better. Yeah. And so that's probably the biggest change for me, is realizing this is not, so there's no more people want to see growth. They're always going to want to see growth, and you have to deliver on that. But you have to have a plan showing at least when it's reasonable for you to be cash flow positive. And I think, honestly, most companies, that was probably 5 or 6 years off. Yeah. Right.
And so you set a plan in place for you all to get there, and it largely hinged on getting these logos, being this enterprise company. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy there?
Yeah, I will.
Think of the founder who is watching, who is maybe going from seed to Series A kind of space and figuring out, okay, now I got to roll up my sleeves and really have a plan.
Yeah, that's great. So the first thing we thought about was we had to be realistic in terms of where we are at the time. We had to take inventory. Like, what are we doing really well right now? And the reason why we had to think about that is because the risk you have anytime you're implementing a new strategy, right, is that you sort of lose, you see a lot of churn, right, from your existing, customer base. So we had been a celebrity text messaging platform, public figures. We thought, okay, what is our platform good for today? Without any changes, no new improvements, what can we do to build on our platform today? We took the idea that we had celebrities, public figures, some sports, and we said, we're going to create an entertainment vertical, and it will be focused on enterprise, like customers, sports, film and TV, and music, right? Natural progression, up market. We already had some leverage, and we were able to work those leads. And honestly, I have to say, with a lot of help from board members like Ashton Kutcher, Guy Osiri, sit on our board, we were able, we just played to our strengths. That's the advice I would give. Play to your strengths first to build that confidence. And then from there, we also said, hey, what other large group is very similar to celebrities and public figures? We said politicians and public, right? And nonprofit or big, large nonprofits. So we then built that out as a vertical. And then finally, we do have a wonderful small and medium business. That's what I love about our tool. I think it's a magic maker for small and medium businesses who need to generate revenue, who need to sell tickets, who just need to get the word out there. We decided that health and wellness was the vertical that made sense for us. The reason why is because these are people who were already had a community, but just needed to connect with them more. So when I say health and wellness, I don't mean just gyms. I mean motivational speakers, inspirational people like you, people who just want to talk to their audience and they want to be heard and they want to hear from the people who are in their community.
Yeah. And you're saying this, I'm thinking about the Backstage portfolio. We have 200 plus companies.
Yeah.
And I think about and I don't know if they're customers yet, but I think about a Mommy, and I think about our consumer brands, Healthy Roots, and so many companies are coming to mind.
Yes.
They're really, really great at social.
Exactly.
And really great at keeping up with people on email. Right. And if they had that back and forth, that's interesting. And so when did you know it was working? When did you know you had something?
That's a good question. I always knew the product, right, was special.
Yes.
But it probably was the beginning of January 2022.
Yeah.
Right, when people started reaching out to us, right? We started doing really fun people like Issa Rae's sort of company, radio.
Yes.
Yeah, we did a scavenger hunt with them.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
And so these are the ideas when our customers started coming to us with ideas of how they wanted to use the platform. I knew we were onto something.
Yeah, yeah. And is there a type of customer, not necessarily what they do, but like how many contacts they have that they're going to do really well here? Like I think Slack knew if they have a certain number of back and forth, they're customers for life.
Yes.
Do you have that?
That magic metric.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I will say building your audience up to about 100 people within the first 90 days would be the goal.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the goal. When you get a community built of about 100 people, right, within the first 90 or so days. You can do it afterwards, but that's the sweet spot for community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know the percentage of the smaller companies versus the big enterprise companies?
Yeah. So most of it probably we have about 7,000 customers on the platform.
Wow.
And honestly, like as you go up market, probably maybe a little less than a third are enterprise and small and medium business. The rest are still celebrities and public figures.
But even 1/3 of 7,000, that's a huge number of major companies and major organizations using it.
Yeah.
Do you know how many customers you brought in since you've been CEO? Or not you personally, but the company has?
The company has. We've probably all in all, maybe around 2,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just a year and a half.
Yeah, that's right.
So I like a lot of things about you, but one of the things I like about you is that you will brag about your accomplishments, but it's not bragging. It feels like it's just like a matter of fact, and I try to instill that in people.
Right.
Why do you feel comfortable doing that? Because I think that'll help someone.
Oh, that's a good question. I think because this is an integration. I think because I know I don't tend to talk a lot about what I'm going to do. It's just not my thing, but that, by the way, that hasn't always served me well. So I don't know if I'm not recommending it, but I don't. I think the reason why is because I talk about results, right? I have a very clear understanding of the difference between activity and results, and I think when you speak from a place of results, it's confidence around facts. So that's how I think about it. I feel like maybe it's honestly, Arlan, I feel like I've earned it, right?
Yeah.
By the time it's happened,
Yeah.
I feel like I've definitely earned it.
So that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'm someone who's super confident. The reason I think it's so powerful is because I get to talk. I have the luxury of talking to so many people, and I am surprised often by how successful people will put themselves down and or say something. I had someone in this very chair, Amy Porterfield, who is a great entrepreneur. She said, we did $15 million at her company last year. And then she immediately said, we did 16 and a half the year before. So she tried to cut it, and I had to stop her. And she's not the only one. I've had people who are on television who are household names that I've talked to, who you would think that they are confidence out the wazoo. And I find it fascinating. And I also think there's some people who think, hey, you're not supposed to be above your station. You're not supposed to say this, or you're too boastful. And I think that's a really good way of talking about it, is to say, you're not talking about what you're going to do. Maybe bragging about what you're going to do is a little troublesome. But what you did, you better talk about it.
That should be fair game, right?
That should be fair game
Right.
because you did it.
Right.
You executed. You came into a company that was doing well. That's a very great product.
Right.
And then you took it further than it had already been in a meaningful way that I just watched Mark Benioff do an interview, and there was not one moment where he was humble. Not one moment where he said, well, I shouldn't really brag about that. He was like, I did this. He said, I'm the best, I'm the most successful SaaS founder of all time. It's a fact. Let's have that energy.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
I love that. I love that, and I hope that it's breaking through to some people.
Yes,
Because
I
it's
hope
so
so
important.
too.
People are watching and gaining from individuals, and I think it's so important. So what do you think community what do you think the company can achieve in the next couple of years?
That is my kryptonite, right?
Yeah.
I just said, right? Talking about
That's right. You don't-
right?
you
Like no, but it's
but you
true.
gotta plan,
right?
right?
But you do have
Yeah.
to plan,
Yeah.
right? You're exactly right.
Yeah.
But and I'll be vulnerable and say that is a harder thing for me. I want to and I can't. I tend to want to not say and just do it. I guess maybe it's part of the right under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
But here's what but there's an answer to that. We had an all company on-site over the last 2 days, and it was really special. We launched a new company vision, and the new company vision was we connect the world to the power of community through experiences rooted in authenticity, belonging, and truth. We bring out the best in people. So when I think from a higher level, just in terms of what we can do, is we have the ability to plug the world into like what it means, the strength of a community. And I always say, like, communities can do anything, right? Like communities with the right ingredients, for good and for bad, truthfully.
Yeah.
But for good and for bad, we can do anything together. So what I mean to say by that is that the sky is the limit. When you have a product that actually connects you to people, you don't have to you always belong, because you're not posting something. You're not forced to tweet, reshare, retweet, post things that make you seem like you fit in. When you send a text on community, you instantly belong.
That's amazing. So you have a clear vision of what you want. How is it working with the original founders?
Oh, well.
Because I met them their first year.
Oh, yeah. First of all, amazing human beings. And everybody says that, but I mean genuinely amazing, wonderful, kind people, right? So one of our co-founders is sort of, went on to do his own thing.
Yeah.
And another is still with us as the chief product officer.
Yeah.
His name is Josh, and I'm super grateful. He's I was telling him the other day, I was like, working with you and, a couple of other people on this leadership team makes my job, the CEO role, like there's no other job I would want to do working with them. So it's great to have the insights from people who have been there from the very beginning.
Have you been on a board of another company before?
Yeah.
What's I know with startups.
Yep.
Again, having a large portfolio, you get to hear a lot of things. Some startups love their board.
Yes.
They go to their board for everything. They need their wisdom. And some startups feel that the board is holding them back and it's sort of a conflict. Is there a way a founder can construct their board?
Yes.
to play to their favor so they can be set up for success?
You ask really good questions. I just have to take a moment to say that's a perfect question. Yes and yes, absolutely. I think it's the CEO's job, though, to set the tone, right? During my first board meeting with our board, and I actually love our board. We have an amazing board, and that's intentional, right? So one, to the extent you can, particularly if you're a founder, making sure you have the right folks on the board. And for me, that included people who had insights into sort of our core verticals, but also people who were diverse, right? And I needed to have at least one other person who looked like me.
Yes.
So that was important to me. The second was knowing what my job is. If you don't know what your job is, of course the board is going to start, right, trying to figure that out for you. I don't think it comes from a bad place. They're just helping you figure out. So when I initially met with the board, I say, I'm clear on what my job is. My job is to own culture, strategy, and go-to-market. That's what I own 100% at the company. Now, it doesn't mean I'm in the weeds doing all the tactical work around those items, but ultimately, I'm directly responsible for those areas. And then there's the third. And I think that's setting the tone for the board meeting. And, I have a great network of advisors. I've sat on boards. I chair the Finance and Compensation Committee for another board. So what was important for me is to make sure I set the tone for the meeting. And I told the board, our board meeting should be minimum 80% strategy. Right? That's what we're there to talk about. Strategic. I try to say what I don't, and I told them, I said, what I don't want to create is hours full of gotcha moments for everyone in the room, because that doesn't help us actually deliver the results you want to.
So you've been on a board, so do you see the founders come in and the CEOs come in and they set the tone?
Yeah.
And you've seen that that's successful, and that's what you...
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know if I've seen it, to be honest with you, Arlan. I just know that's what, as a board member, I would have appreciated seeing.
I have seen some great founder board direction.
Yes.
Just masterful for some reason, and I don't know where you pick it up.
Yeah.
It'd be great if there were courses about it. There's a great book. Brad Feld has he has a lot of books that I love, and one of them I'm in now, which is really cool.
Oh, congratulations.
Startup. Guess what it's called? Startup Communities.
Oh. I love it.
But there's one, that speaks to startup boards.
Right.
And it tells you how to be on a board and have a board.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
So I highly recommend any of his books.
Okay.
But that's something that information doesn't get passed around too often.
No.
And especially doesn't get passed around to non-white men who have been doing this for 20 years.
That's right.
And so anything that we can do to add to that is super helpful. How important was it for you to put your foot down and say, I'm going to have somebody on the board, at least one person who is not Guy Oseary or Ashton Kutcher?
Yeah. It was super important to me. I knew it from the beginning. The way startup boards come together, though, it's all about who puts the money.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Into the company.
Yeah.
So what that meant is I had to be very serious about finding people who had diverse backgrounds as investors. And so one of the things I did was I reached out to sort of funds that were special, either had large funds that had missions to also support women or underrepresented minorities, larger funds, and hopefully sort of share with them, find a mutual sort of, love fest for community, and then ask them to consider jumping in.
It's really important that emerging managers, fund managers, legacy fund managers are listening to this.
Yes.
Because what you're saying is, with the power that you have with a growing company that is on track to do very well for its investors, you are making decisions that are calculated when it comes to the diversity on your board and the diversity on your cap table.
Yeah.
That's a power that collectively founders have more and more of and will continue to grow. And if investors are sleeping on that, like the ones who didn't have access to people to put on their board for you, they're going to miss out on the opportunity to invest in you.
100%.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's huge.
And I want to make sure that we pull that clip, because this is what we've been talking about at Backstage for a decade.
Yeah.
And people before me, decades prior to that. So it's very exciting. And what are you excited about going forward?
I'm excited about what we can do for our leaders. We call our customers leaders on the platform. I'm excited about giving a voice to people, right, who haven't always had one. I'm excited about making money for small and medium businesses. My dad was a small business owner. Yeah. He owned a marble and granite business. If he would have had a platform to connect with his customers and future customers and get them into his fold, it would have made a difference in his quality of life and our quality of life. So I'm excited about just ensuring that people can do better.
Yeah, because we talked a lot about the sort of social community aspect of it, but it really is that you don't have to have a lot of people, like you said, 100 or more.
Yes. And
you can have that communication where you drop a new product or you have a new sale, but it's not in this spammy way. It's in a very interesting way. And I would imagine you also have best practices.
Right.
Like if it's worked for this other company, you can teach other people how to do it, right?
That was one of the new things we did. Yeah, so we have prescriptive plays now for people. We can say, here's a text message sort of string you can send over the course of the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And this is the outcome you should expect. I won't say the customer's name, but we had one customer, small company, fashion, like people of color, dropped an exclusive item that they had made. They actually didn't want it out in the public.
Yeah.
Like they had a really small knit, tight-knit community, maybe about 500 people total in their community. They dropped one item and made $30,000 in a day.
Wow.
Right, just selling this T-shirt.
Wow.
Right, so those are the types of examples. And when I think I can help a small business, make in a day what they might make in a month.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's great.
Right? And also the president is on our platform.
Is he?
So, right, yeah.
So Michelle's on Mrs. Obama's the president.
Exactly.
And
now, the White House is the White House account. So
I'm thinking of the Obamas. I still think that the
Obamas. You forgot they're not president anymore.
I thought he's my forever president.
Yeah, he's your forever.
But
he's
Biden,
on the platform too.
Joe Biden.
He's on the platform. But he is. Yeah. Actually, President Obama was one of our earliest people on the platform. Right. So, he was, by the way, in 2015, he was the first person to tweet. Right? That was the new communications channel for the White House. Oh. And we were the first time the White House changed their communication or added a new communications channel since 2015.
Yeah. So you're saying from the White House?
From the White House. So Joe Biden tweeted, State of the Union address.
Yeah.
I actually almost forgot to watch it.
Yeah.
And I got a text message in my community channel from the president saying, hey, tune in, here's the channel, here's what you do. It was a great way to drive traffic, and then he's been following up ever since.
You know how Twitter, you tweet?
Yes.
Is there a verb for community?
That's a good one. There is not. Let's work together. Let's work together on that. Let's commit.
Yeah.
Let's commune. Right?
I would love to do that, because I think
one.
that is when things turn a corner of mainstream.
Yes. When there's a nickname. ...
Yeah.
Yeah. Community is longer.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Well, it's been wonderful talking to you. We've talked for about 8 months or so, and I learned so much about you in this time. And I think you're inspiring. I think you've inspired a lot of people today, and I'm so grateful that you're here.
Well, I feel I'm humbled to have someone like you talk to me about inspiring other people, because you definitely inspired me. I just appreciate the connection.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything you're doing, by the way, in the community, in the investment community. Without you, I wouldn't be here.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.